Hello there and welcome to Fairyland Cottage, and thanks very much for joining me here today for Valentine's Day. And I thought, what better reason to focus on a little bit of self-care. How to be our best friend. We all have different situations, whether we're living alone or with partners or family. But one thing is for sure, we all have to live with ourselves. And years ago, a very wise woman told me that the way that she looked after herself was to be her best friend. Now, it really struck me because I realised that I wasn't being my best friend. I was much more expert at being my worst enemy. And she explained that being your best friend is talking to yourself as you would talk to your best friend. With kindness, acceptance, respect, appreciation, listening when needed, being supportive, and also being very honest. Knowing that we all have our pros and our cons, none of us are perfect. We all have our flaws, but accepting those flaws and not focusing on them. For years, I was always trying to be a so-called better person, trying to get rid of all my flaws altogether so that I could be somewhat lovable. Now, as the years have gone by, I'm accepting the flaws that I have, knowing that I'm only human and I have my own pros and cons, and being aware of them both. As we become an adult, we all have a choice of how we treat ourselves. Before, I was always very hard on myself. As B.K. Shivani says, if we're feeling guilty or saying what we should have done, we're criticizing ourselves. And as Dr. William Glasser puts it, we're all doing the best we can with the tools we have. And when we know better, we do better. So we've chatted about the caring habits here numerous times. And it really got me thinking, because for so many years I used to use the deadly habits on myself. Thinking that if I did things better, then I would be happier. And it's the complete opposite. I learned that no amount of beating myself up is ever going to make me feel happier, and is ever going to improve the relationships around me. Now, when I'm doing something, I ask myself, what needs am I meeting? Am I looking for external approval? Instead of looking outside of myself, I can approve of myself for who I am. Like us all, we're doing the best we can at that moment. For so many years, I would seek out external approval. Now, as my best friend, I approve of myself. It's like an elderly gentleman once said, when asked, what makes you successful? He said, when I'm above ground. And I thought that was perfect. He decided what success was. He decided to go easy on himself. I can imagine that he was a very easy person to be around. So now I remind myself I don't need approval from outside, and so I'm able to prioritize what I do without any judgment or expectation. I look at what needs that I need to meet. At the moment, I'm meeting my need for fun through learning, doing crafts. Recently, I listened to an interview with what society would deem a very successful business person that had got a very high net worth with their business that they started from scratch. What struck me about the conversation was how she informed that her father always asked her every day when she came home from school, "What did you fail at today?" He wasn't interested in what she succeeded at. All he wanted to know was what she tried to do and failed. And he was so proud of her every time that she failed. And so she grew up to be this adult that was okay with trying something and had no judgment of herself when she then failed at that such thing. For years, I was so afraid to try anything unless it could be perfect, because I only had my self-worth in being perfect at something. And when you accept that we fail, we succeed, but it's all about the actual doing of it and meeting our needs, then it gives you an extra lease of life. You start to give yourself a break. Life seems to get easier when you're not so hard on yourself. Years ago, before I was being my best friend, I used to rate my productivity on my self-worth. So the more I was doing, the more that I felt, well, now that's okay. Now being my best friend, I don't focus too much on productivity, I just focus on looking after myself and those around me. I'm more open to trying new things and not having any judgment in whatever way it turns out. I was making here a cauliflower pizza for the first time. It was interesting, to say the least. Before, I would have beat myself up if it hadn't turned out perfect. Now I just give it a go, and if I like it, do it again, and if I don't, move on and try something else. When we really learn that no amount of beating ourselves up is ever going to make us feel happier, life becomes easier. The wise woman that once told me to be your best friend said to focus on how you talk to yourself, the language that you use on yourself. Before, I used to say how stupid I was for doing something. Now I change it with, I was doing the best I could. Just that simple change has brought a whole new lease of life. So I'd love to know how you be your best friend, or if you are your best friend, because it's only when we can recognize that we're not really being our best friend that we can change something. So chat as always down below or over on Instagram. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you like to give it a thumbs up, and I'll do more videos like this. Have a wonderful week. Keep it simple, and I'll see you in the next video.